Well, we've already had ourselves some church this morning, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and you're not going to believe me, but I'm going to be brief this morning. I told Kevin before, I said I prepared 2 messages today. The message that I normally preach, which is, who knows when we get out of here, and the second message, which is pithy. So that's going to be the one we're going to go with this morning. But I want to talk to you about the next generation church. And as I start, I want to talk to you about an event that just occurred to me. About 10 years ago, starting this May, I graduated from Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. And those were some of the best years of my life. Spent 5 years in Lynchburg, had so much fun. And I'll never forget, I worked at the ice rink there the last couple years. Dream job. If I could work in an ice rink the rest of my life, I totally would. It's such a blast. And I remember working there one day, and this guy came in. He's bringing his daughter there as kind of a prospective student of the school, doing a college visit. And he walks in, and he just has this look on his face of awe and wonder, just like, wow, look at this thing. There's an ice rink on campus. And he walks up to me, and I say, hey, sir, how's it going? You know, like, I could tell, like, he had a story to tell. So I said, what's going on? And he said, well, I just brought my daughter here to see the school, and nothing is the same as when I was here 20-something years ago. I mean, everything has changed. I can't believe how much things have changed here. And I said, yeah, you know, I kind of puffed my chest up, you know, like my version of your school is better than your version, you know, and I kind of like, it's pretty awesome, isn't it? And just last fall, my last college roommate got married, and so Sarah and I trekked up to Lynchburg for the first time in 9 years. And we get up there, and I get on campus. And I'm telling you guys, I never have any problem with directions. I'm not directionally challenged in the least. If I've been there, I know where I am. I always know how to get to a place I've already been. But here I am sitting on a campus that I spent 5 years of my life. And I'm looking around and I'm going, I don't have any bearing on where I am right now. Wasn't there a building here before? And now there's grass. And right there, that was trees. And now there's buildings there. And I kid you not, they had, since the 9 years since I have been gone, 90% of that campus practically is brand spanking new. The ice rink that I worked in have been completely renovated and remodeled. And when I left, it was only 3 years old. And I'm walking in and I'm going, I don't even recognize this place. I spent 3 years working in here and I don't recognize anything. The workers kind of looked at me sideways because they had new security measures, and I kind of slipped through the door because I wanted to see thing. And the only thing I recognized in that whole place was the slab of ice that was right in the middle. And even then, the paint on the underneath was totally repainted and different. And so I remember I'm sitting there, and we walk into the student union, and I make my way down to the basement, and here I am looking around going, wow, look at this thing. They got a bowling alley. They have a bowling alley. And there's these 2 students sitting there, and I walk in, and they go, hey, man, how's it going? And I walk up to them, and I said, I can't believe this place. I mean, I was just here like 10 years ago, and everything is different. I mean, I don't recognize anything. And they said, yeah, it's pretty awesome, isn't it? And suddenly it hit me. I was like, oh, my gosh, I am that guy. I am that old guy from years ago. I am not old enough to be that guy already. How did this happen to me? And so I just say, you know, anytime we talk about change is scary. That word just is a terrifying word, right? We, as we get older, we like life to be predictable. We like to settle into our lives, in our routines. And when we get those routines messed up, we get nervous, right? We don't know what's going to happen next. And so it's terrible, the nostalgia of being in a school, some of the best years of your life, and then to go back and not have anything to attach you to them. It's totally gone. And it kind of reminds you of Nashville, doesn't it? Nashville's changing. The streets you used to drive down all the time, the places that remind you of long ago, are totally different, totally reworked. Places that were just purely residential now, you can find shops lining the streets. People that look like they're from some other planet that just stepped off of a spaceship and they're in East Nashville, right? Those are my people. So what I want to talk to you about today is I want to talk to you about what the next generation church looks like. And I hope this is encouraging for you. I don't think you're going to leave here and go, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I won't be around to see that thing totally play itself out. You're going to want to stick it out. You're going to want to be a part of it, I guarantee you. So turn to Matthew chapter 5. We're going to be in the Sermon on the Mount, the most famous sermon ever preached by Jesus himself. And we're going to look at a very brief little passage here. And all I want to do is make two positive observations of what Jesus tells us we are and what we're to do. And then I want to draw out two warnings in this passage. And after that, we're going to go. Okay? All right, so first off, let's read the passage. Matthew 5, verse 13, it says this, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." So let's pray real quick and we'll talk about it. Father, we just thank you for this morning and for this chance to hear from your word. God, would you bless it with your spirit and your presence here in this room, that you would convict us of how, God, we don't measure up to the call that you've put on our lives. And Father, that you would encourage us in the path that you have set before us. Lord, we love you and we pray that you would be center stage in this moment. In your Son's name, amen. So, what we see here is two identity statements, what Jesus gives us as the church, okay? Now, this is a passage that is to individuals, but as we know, as individuals, we also make up the church. And so, what Jesus is talking about, he's telling us that we are two things. One, he says that you are the salt of the earth. Now, people go wrong when they read passages like this and they say, oh, I need to be the salt of the earth. I got to become more salty. I got to be the salt, or I got to be the light. But here's what actually Jesus is saying. He's saying, no, that is who you already are. If my spirit is dwelling in you, you are salt already. You already are light. And what he's telling you is, in the identity of who you are, be who you are. Don't become something you're not. It's not to strive to be something that you currently are not. It is to be what you've already become. It's to embrace your calling in life. So the first thing is, when we look at salt, we need to know a couple things about salt. Why is salt mentioned 2,000 years ago in this passage? Well, they didn't have refrigerators back then. So when they went out and they killed animals and they hunted and brought food home, there had to be a way to preserve stuff. And so literally what salt is in this passage, what we see Jesus is talking about, is salt, first off, is used to preserve something, to slow the decay of something. This insinuates that something is in a natural state of decay. So what is that thing? What is in decay right now? And what Jesus is saying is the world. The world is in decay. If you don't think that, go back and read your Old Testament. God creates the world. He puts a man and a woman in a garden. It doesn't take them long before they've already broken His law and sinned and they've been banished. And it takes 6 chapters. Just go back and read it. 6 chapters for God to say, I'm not going to dwell with man anymore. I'm wiping them out. I'm starting over with this guy. Things had decayed so much. Things had gotten so evil and so debased in life that God literally decided to flood the entire world and start over with a man. Just those 6 chapters right there prove what Jesus is saying right here, is that the state of the world is in a natural state of decay. That without any Christ, without any church, without any people of God, the culture, the world will only grow darker and faster without anything preserving it. Anything in resistance, anything slowing the decay, anything giving some resistance to that movement. And so, go back, read your Old Testament. And then you see that God starts a people through Abraham. And that inevitably what happens to that people is they start to decay themselves. They actually decay in routine. They'll decay and then a judge will come or a people will come, send them into exile, and they'll get back on fire for God, and they'll want to keep His law, but then they'll decay again. Until Jesus comes along and establishes the church, and He says this statement, "You are the salt of the earth." So what He's telling us is that we as the church, my friends, that we are a preservative to life. But that's not the only function of salt. Salt not only preserves things, but it also gives flavor to things, does it not? It gives something a savory flavor. That when next time you decide to make a meal, just totally leave salt out of the meal, okay? Now, you're not going to impress anybody, obviously. And then just sit there and like, YouTube's real big these days, so get out like an iPhone or a secret camera and just like video people's faces and post it. You'll get tons of hits. Who knows, you might get an endorsement. But you just post and watch their faces real close, and they'll just do stuff like this, like, what's wrong with this? You must have missed something in the recipe. Yes, salt, the most basic ingredient that goes into all food, salt. Some of you like to put salt on Snickers bars, right? So that's what I've heard. So some people like salt so much that they'll salt anything. But you need salt in a meal to give something some kind of flavor, right? And without it, it doesn't taste any good. This is so true about what we are, who we are as Christians. That we need to see that the world out there is in darkness, that it's in decay. And just look around, watch the news. It doesn't need any help doing that. It naturally decays. It naturally finds its way into hopelessness. And it finds itself wondering for answers. Why is the world so dark? Why are these things happening? Why are 17 kids shot in a school? What kind of laws can we pass to salt up this world a little bit? Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. I mean, we can try things, and we can legislate, and we can strive to be safer and to create a safe place. But inevitably, the problem with the world always has been not that it is uneducated, not that it is just not quite ascended and matured to the level of surpassing its demons. The problem is that it loves the darkness. It actually loves the decay. It doesn't enjoy the tragedy of the decay. No, it doesn't enjoy maybe like the consequences of the decay. But they do love the darkness. Read your Bible. John chapter 3, Jesus says that the light has come into the world, but the people do not like the light. They don't want it. They hate the light. Because in it, the things, the acts that they've done in darkness are exposed and brought into the light. So you can educate people, you can pass as many laws as you want, but what we will find is time after time again, the world will decay. It is up to the church to be the salt. So that means that this passage is calling us to go out, to sprinkle, to scatter from this building, to get into the community, to find that places where it is decaying the most, and to resist. That is to find people that are broken, people that are disenfranchised, people that are hurting, and not just look at them with our noses in the air that we aren't in the same state that they are, but to be like our God, who literally at the heart of God and heart of the gospel is mission. It is a God who says in Romans 5:8, Paul writes, "But God shows His love in this, that while we were still sinners, while we were still His enemies, Christ died for us." He didn't wait for us to be lovable. He didn't wait for us to clean ourselves up. He didn't wait for us to get some really good intentions about Him. No, it was when we were resisting. And even while Jesus was on the cross, He was still having insults hurled at Him. He was still being slandered and murdered. And people thought, we did it, we defeated it. We got Him away, we got rid of the light. But 3 days later, He got up out of the grave and the light prevailed. And so, as much as the world doesn't want Him, we have got to go and show them Him. We got to be salt. We've got to preserve people that are in great amounts of decay. And we have got to be a flavor of the world. Have you ever pulled up to a drive-thru and ordered something and the person in the drive-thru window says, "What do you want?" And you're like, "Well, that was nice. I'm so excited to be up this morning and at this place." Or you go to the DMV and and you're going to get your picture taken, and you just stand there and you turn around with the most awkward look on your face, and you hear the snap, and you're like, oh, no, just give me 2 seconds. I was going to smile. And they're like, get out of here. Just take your picture and get out of here. That has a way of hardening us, doesn't it? We kind of walk away and we're like, oh, it just frustrates me. But isn't it great when you come across a person who, instead of giving you an attitude because they're having a hard day, you come across somebody that loves and is gracious with you? Does it not, in turn, just sweeten life a little bit? Brothers and sisters, this is what Jesus is telling us we are as a church, that we sweeten life, that we give it flavor. We make this life a little bit better to live than it would be without the presence of God in this world with His people. The second thing Jesus says is this. He says, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand. And it gives light to all in the house. The second thing here is that, first off, we're called to be salt. We are the salt that goes out in the world, preserves the world from decay, resists the decay, and gives life to them. But the second thing is we are light. We have a message that makes sense of this whole life. So when you watch the news and a shooting happens and you hear people asking questions like, well, what is going on here? What is this? Is this guns? Is this mental health issues? What's going on? Only the church, only the believer can step into the gap and say, I can actually make sense of this. The problem is with this right here. Every one of us, our hearts are broken. And I can't tell you exactly why this person's heart went down to that depth of sin, but I can tell you that is what the problem at the heart is. It's brokenness. It's people not living lives in submission to God. We were designed to live for God, and so when we do not live out the way we are designed, it causes all kinds of havoc and problems in our life. We make a mess. And so we are called to be light, to not just go out and to nurture this world and to love in this world and serve this world, but then we're also to bring a message that gives light and clarity to why we are the way we are and what the hope is. We have a message that's good, a good news gospel of hope. So we're told to be these two things. So 2 warnings real fast, and then I want to go. I want to remind you of 2 things that he says here. He says, 1, that we are to be salt, but he warns us to not lose your saltiness. That after salt loses its saltiness, the only purpose it could have is to be thrown out on the path and for people to walk all over it. So one thing I want to encourage us with based on this passage here today is this. We cannot, as the church, lose our saltiness in a bitter, angry age. Just get on Facebook. People vent like crazy on Facebook. Do you know, by the way, that there's a study done that the more you vent, the more you vent? It seems like the idea of venting is you get the pressure out and now you're good, right? I don't got to go crazy on that topic anymore because I got it out. But they've actually found the more you vent your anger, the more you vent your frustration, it actually feeds in you a greater desire to vent your anger more. You become more angry, not less angry. There's no venting actually going on. It's just full on like flamethrower. It's just blowing people away. We live in a bitter and angry age, and here's the thing. Things aren't going the way necessarily the church would have them go, right? Laws are being passed that completely devalue this book that we hold so dear. The values that were prevalent in the culture are on their way out the door, if not already there. And the world is changing, and we don't like it because it doesn't look like it used to look. It doesn't feel like it used to feel. We've got to remember that no matter what comes at us, no matter what Washington does, no matter what some young punks do out in the street with some signs, no matter what hashtag movement starts tomorrow that isn't based in facts but is based in something else, we don't have to lose our cool. We don't have to blow our tops. We don't have to lose our minds and go down the same path with the rest of the world. Instead, we can react different. And this is what Jesus is telling us to do, is because the world may go to hell in a handbasket, which he promises will happen, by the way, that things are going to get worse, not better. We cannot pull away from the world. We cannot cross our arms and say, well, that's fine. You're going to make the mess, then you deal with it. You got it. Oh, yeah. You've got all the answers. So go ahead, pass the laws you want to do. Tear that stuff down if you want. Build your own stuff. Yeah, you just do it and just see if we care. That's not going to help anybody. And Jesus is literally warning us, because that is in us as people. That when the things that we hold dear get destroyed, get blown up, our natural response is to get angry and to cross our arms and just put our nose up and say, okay, now figure out a plan. You blew it all up. Now what are you going to do with it? We cannot lose our saltiness. Instead of pulling away from the culture, we need to get into the culture. We need to go get them. We need to go find them. And we need to find the people that are broken, the people that are hurting, the people that have been forgotten about and rejected. And we need to be there for them and to bring remedy to their suffering and their pain. That is what Jesus is calling us as a church to be. That is what the next generation church values and wants to be. Secondly, there's a warning about light here. He says that nobody takes light and puts it under a basket and hides it, but instead they put it on a stand to give light for all in the room, right? I want to encourage you to not assume that people that drive up and down our street know who we are, who our identity is, and what our message is. Because I'm telling you, that would be a huge mistake to make. People are not as mindful about God as they once were. They've got other things to worry about. They've got ball practice. They've got work. They've got unruly kids to deal with. They've got marriages, and they've got Netflix, and they've got social media, and they've got all kinds of stuff going on, politics, burning the house down. There's everything going on in this world right now, and they don't think about God as much as they used to. So when they're driving up and down the street, it's really easy to think, well, they must be thinking inside themselves, I may not go this Sunday, but I need to go. They don't think like that. They don't even have that inkling in them of, I probably should go check that out and figure out what that is. I know I need Jesus, but I'm afraid to step into those doors because I look different, act different. Not on the radar. Not even on the radar. I remember thinking this first time when I was a staff member at my last church. I was in the office every day of the week, 8 hours a day. And all I thought about was the vision I was casting and the programs and how I might retool them and rework them. People I needed to counsel and talk to and how to inch these people closer to Jesus. And I just thought about that all the time. And then came the holiday season and I got 2 weeks off. And the only reason I went to church was Sunday morning worship. And I remember coming in the office after those 2 weeks and I walked in and I go, oh my gosh, this is how people think about the church. I didn't think about it all that much like I normally do. I mean, working here, it's always on my mind, but I kind of got a little taste of what it is to be a layperson, to have responsibilities, to have a job that isn't church, to have kids that you've got to take care of and discipline and whatever, to have responsibilities elsewhere, other things that you're juggling, other irons in the fire that are really important, and how church kind of pops up on like Tuesday night because you're like, oh yeah, I got to go to church tomorrow. And Saturday, like, church is tomorrow, we got to be there, and oh yeah, I've got this thing and that thing. And it was a totally different way of looking at church than I was used to. Let's not assume that the world thinks about the church and the way we think about the church. Because I guarantee you they think totally different. They don't know who we are. And they actually don't know what our message is. I've always said this about Inglewood. It's got two great things going on. The reason I say two is not because there's more, but because when you're talking to someone in conversation, you say, I got 7 things, people are like, they're going to check out. They're like, I'm not going to listen to this guy. But 2 things that I love about Inglewood that we've got going for us. 1, we have a great message. The truth is preached here, man. We preach from the Word. It's clear. It's passionate from our pastor. Our Bible studies, we're always in it and not something else. And the second thing is that we have got people that love each other. And when you walk in here, like Casey said earlier, it is true. People come in here and people go to them and they want to know who you are. They want to meet you. They want to introduce themselves. They want to draw you in. You know, some churches you can go into and they'd rather talk about you than actually talk to you. You know, so you walk in and you see them talking about you. But this is not that church. This is a church that loves people and it loves the Lord and it loves His Word. Here's the problem about that. How in the world are they going to know if they don't ever walk through the doors? They won't. They'll never know what a special place this is. They'll never find it. They're not going to trip and fall and find themselves in a pew in here. They're just not coming. We have got to go get them. This is what the next generation church looks like. We want to be salt. We want to go and find the hurting and the ailing, and we want to bring a remedy to their suffering. And we want to be a light to people. We want to get out there and shine the light, because here's the deal, guys. If all we do is within these walls, we're putting a basket on our light. Sure, we got a really tall steeple, and we got a really big building. But that doesn't mean that the light's escaping out of these windows and out of these walls. We are going to have to go out there, and we're going to have to get them. That's going to mean retooling. That's going to mean dreaming. That's going to have discussions led to it. But it is a church that is on mission. I don't know if you listen to these young adults, but when they started talking about change, you know, there's all kinds of things they could have said. And I knew what they were going to, I didn't even talk to them. I knew what they were going to say, because this generation thinks in one way, and it is mission. They are bleeding hearts. The reason we're an activist generation is because we want change. Now, we don't know what to do with that. We'll totally blow up the building. But we need a structural engineer to figure out what we're going to build next, right? Because we're totally lost. And that is why the church is so beautiful. We've got older generations. We've got younger generations unified together with a common Lord, with a common purpose. And we're going to do this together. Nobody's getting left in the dust. Nobody is expendable. Nobody is washed up. Nobody is too young and not experienced enough. Everybody gets a seat at the table, because God has created one body. Not multiple bodies. Not the young adult body and the senior adult body and the children body. It is one. We are one in Christ. And as we go forward, I just want to encourage you to be salt in your neighborhood to your neighbors, in your school districts, in your workplace. And let's dream as a church what it looks like to be that next generation church. That we can survive into the next generation by keeping the things that we do so well. But how can we be better salt to the neighborhood that's around? How can we be a light in the darkness so that people will know who we are and what our message is, so that they can find hope as well? That's how we build this church. That's how we enter into the next generation and seal up another 100 years of Inglewood's life, of allowing the kingdom of God to not abandon this land that we have taken. This is our neighborhood. These are our people. We need to reach them. So I just encourage you this morning. And I want to ask you, do you know this God? Do you know the light, the true light that has come into the darkness, that is the true way to God? It's Jesus Christ. I want to encourage you with this last thought. When I was at the beach with my daughter last time, my daughter goes through phases. She wants to be held. She wants to walk. She wants to walk very far ahead of me. She wants to walk very far behind me. I don't get it. It just changes from moment to moment. But when we walk down the beach, one of my favorite things to do is just walk in the wet sand. And you kind of leave your footprints as you walk. And my daughter, for a period of time, wants to be held, but then she wants me to set her down. And one thing she likes to do is kind of walk in my footsteps. I'm walking and she sees my footsteps, so she steps in it and steps in it. And she does that all the way down the path. But eventually, she gets tired of just filling my footprint. And she decides, you know what? I want to see my own feet. I want to see my own. I want to make an indentation in the sand. I don't want just daddy's feet. I want my feet. And this is what I want to encourage you with. A lot of times, a church, when young people begin to rise up, a new generation begins to get a little older, we can become scared or nervous. What are they going to do? What are they trying to do here? And I want to kind of just give a picture image to something that they said earlier, which is that while we're walking, we don't need to be afraid just because they're not walking in our footsteps anymore. This generation cares so much, and you care so much, that do you not want to make your own imprint? Here's the great thing, that we have young adults here at this church that aren't trying to make their imprints walking in totally different directions. But they're still following in line with the footprints before them. They haven't chosen a different path. They value the footprints ahead of them, and they're following the track. They just want to see their own imprint. They want to make a difference. This is what our church can be. And I want to encourage us in that. So today, let's bow our heads. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. And let's just ask Him today just to bless our church and the future of Inglewood as we go on mission, as we seek to reach a new generation, as we seek to reach a neighborhood that has changed and there's so much that's become different. Let's pray that the Lord blesses that and just commission our church as we do that. Father, Lord, we thank You so much for this church, this body that You have created, Inglewood Baptist Church, that is a loving body, that is an open and welcoming body, that believes in truth and stands for it. And God, there is a reason that You have our church here at this time in the history of Nashville. God, we believe that that is because You desire to use us for Your kingdom building purposes. So God, I pray that this will be a body that is unified from young and old, male and female, that Father, that any race, any kind of people would find refuge and hope in this body. And that as one, we might be a picture of the gospel of reconciliation. People reconciled to their God, reconciling others in the world to Him as well. To be a part of what we're doing here. Help our church to make a difference as we engage the community, as we stand for Your word and truth. And let us not back down. Let us not be afraid, but be bold in the face of this world. Lord, we love You, and we ask, God, that You would bless this church moving forward in Your Son's name. Amen.
I'm going to ask Carolyn if you'd come to the piano and just